Okay. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Awaken Woman podcast. I'm your host, Ale. And in today's episode, I'm with beautiful Kylie, who is a love coach. And in today's topic, we're going to talk about something that I know a lot of women will resonate, and also men. Is something that I would say most people have gone through, and that's breakups, their power to transform ourselves, and how we can embrace and live our best single lives. So before we dive deeper into the topic, Kylie, I would love to know a little bit more about yourself, and I'm sure all our audience is really keen to know what do you do, and yeah, just a little bit about yourself.
I'm so excited to be here. And so as you said, I am a love coach and I help people navigate modern dating and relationships because it can be a minefield out there. And I'm here to make the process easy and simple and help people meet the love of their life when they're ready to do so. And I'm on a big mission because I want to help make healthy relationships the normal and for everyone to experience what being in a healthy relationship is like. So yeah, and today we are talking about singleness, which is something that we both have a lot of experience in.
Exactly. Yeah. Thank you so much for that intro, and very empowering what you do. I think it's amazing how, this work of giving back, of empowering others, or bringing light it just changed also the narrative, change also, healing as a collective, and us working towards having more healthy, secure, and conscious dynamics with ourselves to start, and then with others. So yeah, I think I would like to kick it off in explaining. I was actually thinking about this lately, and it's something that I constantly, have information coming to me, is why breakups are so painful. Sometimes my clients just say, like, am I ever gonna get over this pain? And I think ourselves, when we've been through, like, we feel like it's a moment in our lives that we don't see any light, that we don't understand why there's so much pain coming up, and we feel even sometimes helpless. So the reason why we experience so much pain in breakups is because breakups, it triggered all our wounds and our childhood pain, emotional pain, trauma, however you want to call it. So we come to relationships already with a lot of core wounds in our subconscious that are usually playing up and coming to the surface in these close and intimate dynamics. And that's because that's when our attachment style gets activated. So according to how our relationship was with our caregivers, we will bring all these wounds to the surface with the purpose of healing them. So it triggers, I'm not enough wound, I'm not lovable, I'm abandoned, I'm not worthy, I'm not chosen, I'm not worthy of love, and all these wounds, and also all the unhealed or repressed emotional pain that we had. And it kind of like reinforces those subconscious beliefs, limiting beliefs about ourselves and relationships. So that's why it's so important, and you probably can also touch on this, Kylie, is the importance on really understanding our relationship patterns coming from our childhood dynamics with our caregivers, and really identifying these limiting beliefs so we can shift the patterns and change our future. Because we don't need to be victims. We don't have to be victims of our past. In most cases, we are not responsible, but we are accountable to change our story. So yeah, I would love to know your idea and your opinion about that.
Yeah, definitely. I totally agree with everything that you've said. And I think the biggest thing that is overlooked is our first understanding of what love is and what relationships are are from our parents, and whatever our parents' relationship dynamics are, then impact our whole trajectory of how we see relationships if they are not then explored and viewed and accepted, and then also unpicked as well. So, like you said, there's so many wounds that happen in childhood, but we don't have to be victims to them. We have power to move past them and to have a different way for ourselves. So, if you are someone that comes from parental relationships that are toxic, that are unhealthy, that weren't a good vision of what real healthy love is, then it's really important to acknowledge that and to be aware of that, and to not feel embarrassed or to feel like this is just how the love that I'm going to have is going to be, because that's not true. And
Yeah.
another big part about when a breakup happens is that we have all these expectations of a relationship, and a lot of people don't go into a relationship thinking it's ever going to end, and that's the hardest thing, because you think it's going to go the distance, you think this is going to be your person forever, and a lot of relationships are not like that. They are just for a season, and they come in to teach us something, to empower us, or to help
Yeah.
us to see things a bit differently. And that's a really hard thing, because then if the relationship doesn't work out and we didn't ever envisage it to not work out, we
Yes.
then feel like we failed.
Yeah. 100%.
And it's not a failure, it's just that wasn't the person that you were going to continue for the whole of your life with. It was just a person that was there for a time for you to either serve a purpose or yeah, just for a time.
Yeah. Oh my God. So many good points that I want to add there. So I'm gonna start with I actually believe that every partner that comes into our life was the right partner at that point in time, because that partner came to project or be a mirror of those wounds that we needed to heal, that we needed to see. And we were meant to come into union at that period of time because there was something that we needed to learn from each other. And I feel like we need to we really need to change the way that in society we see relationships, because relationships are not a necessity, they are a choice. They should be a conscious decision of, I want to make life with this person because this person aligns with my values, right? So that's the first point, is like not seeing breakups, divorce, separation as a failure, but the other way around, being so grateful for all the learnings and all the growth that that person and that relationship brought into our lives. Because at least I talk about my own experience, every relationship has made me a better person, has helped me heal. And then the other part is the importance also on really working on our wounds, is because when we are not aware of what are our wounds, coming to when we get into a relationship, what happens is we tend to idealize our partners because we want to finally be safe, to finally repair this dynamic that brought this pain into us. So let's say that you had a really a challenging dynamic with your father, and then so our subconscious is looking to repair these dynamics with our partners, and that's why we usually tend to attract similar dynamics as in our childhood. And so that's what happens when we get into relationship. We then idealize our partners so we can finally repair that relationship, that broken relationship. But that's totally unfair with the other person, because we are not really seeing that person for who they are, and we are not loving them for who they are. We are trying to change them according to how we want them to be, because we want them to be as our ideal parent that we didn't have. So that's been, for example, my experience. What's your, like, in terms of your experience, your breakthroughs that you've had in your breakups? What are some that you would like to share?
Yeah, definitely. I feel like there's a lot I can share here. But I think the biggest thing is that when I look back on different relationships or different people that I was either in a situationship with or that I was seeing. At the time of being with that person, I attracted who and where I was at.
Yes.
So a lot of my early relationships were unhealthy. They weren't a good representation of what a healthy relationship should look like. And that is because at the time I wasn't in a healthy place. I didn't know what love was, like healthy love.
Yeah.
So what I did attract or who I was with weren't people that were then good for me. It was actually the opposite. So
Yes.
now looking back, I was like, the people that I attract now are much healthier because of where I'm at and the work that I've done, and also how I've changed my patterns and the way that I now view love and relationships. And to
Yeah.
me, that's really exciting. It's really exciting to see the growth and to also see that even though people often feel very stuck, especially if they're single or in a really unhealthy relationship, you can feel very stuck and like there's no way out and things are never going to change for you. And that is so, so, so incorrect, because the work you do on yourself and the way you change your mindset and how you see things can have such huge, huge results for then how dating and relationships then unfold for you.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree on that part. I think it's trying to always remember that being grateful. I think one of my biggest learnings and changes and shifts that has massively impact my relationship with myself and also how I see relationships is really accepting every dynamic as how it is presenting to me. So
Mm.
not really wanting anything more or anything less, and being grateful for whatever dynamic I have, because we tend to be really stuck in the idea that if we meet someone that we like, I want to be with that person, I want to
Mhm.
be in a relationship. But what if that dynamic is meant to develop and evolve more as a friendship, and that's
Mhm.
even more beautiful? Or if it's meant to, be a short period of time, like it doesn't matter how long it's supposed to last. It's just embracing the connection and the dynamic for what it is, and just being grateful for that without wanting it to be anything different. So we kind of like flow with life, with what is coming to our life. But that doesn't mean I'm not gonna work for relationships. So the difference is when we let the dynamic naturally unfold without putting any pressure, without forcing anything, without wanting the person to be how we want them to be, but instead allowing them to be who they are, and us valuing and appreciating that person for who they are. Naturally, the dynamic, if it's meant to be, is gonna flow to more close relationship. I don't even call it relationship, a romantic relationship. It could be a relationship, it could be a friendship.
Mhm.
And if it's not meant to evolve, it just naturally will dissipate. So that was the first point. I think the other point is just also recognizing what is bringing, what are the triggers and wounds that those intimate dynamics are bringing, and instead of blaming the other one, is taking accountability for my own emotions, right? Yeah, so what's, for example, your experience on when you kind of like decided, okay, I need to take accountability on my healing, on my relationship patterns, because like what was that point of like self-awareness for you?
So the point for me was a really, really, really low point. So I was in a very toxic situationship with a guy who did everything that, now looking back, I'm like, what was I doing? But at the time, I was so blindsided by thinking this guy was it for me and he was the guy that I was going to be with. That any kind of little attention that he gave me or any little things that he did, I was just like, yeah, he likes me, this is it. But actually, everything about that situation was so horrendous. And when I talk about it, I just am like, who was that girl that accepted like such little and thought this was it?
Yeah.
And that was a big turning point for me, because I'd got to a point where it was a long period of time where me and this guy were on and off, and things were just kind of all over the place. It was messy. And I thought he really loved and cared for me, but actually he didn't. And I was just so, like you were saying, that you can get so like obsessed with a person, it can blur how you see them. And that was me. I was so blurred by this vision I had of him, and I saw all of his potential and who he could be, but I wasn't seeing the actual man that was in front of me and the reality of who he is today instead of who he could be.
Yeah.
And I got to a point where I was like, I don't want to be this woman that is trying so hard to get a guy to like her or love her. I want to be someone that attracts people and isn't begging for love. And when I realized that that's what I had been doing, and that was my patterns in relationship, it really, really hurt. It really hurt to know that I was that person. And so I then started doing a lot of work on myself, and I stopped dating. I stopped like even trying to like talk to people or anything. I was just like, I want to be completely single, and I want to unpack and unravel everything that is going on inside of me that thinks that this is okay for me to be living life like this.
Mm.
So I spent a good 6 months of like intense work, and that was me having coaches, me doing like coaching on myself. Like I have a therapy background, so I did do some like therapy on myself as well. And I really delved into like, why was I doing this to myself, and why was I allowing that? And
Mm.
after doing so much like exploration, I felt really free afterwards, because I was like, this may have been my past and this may have been what I had been doing, but it's not going to be my future. And these relationship patterns are not going to continue.
Yeah.
And so after that ridiculous situation with that guy,
Yeah.
I haven't been in anything similar since. And it doesn't mean that I don't attract people that are toxic or unhealthy, because that you can't ever stop that.
Yeah.
But the difference is I will not allow those situations into my life. Or if they do happen, I will cut them off quickly, instead of thinking that along the line this is going to work out or get better.
Yeah. And I think thank you so much for sharing. That's such a like inspiring story as well. Like, and I wanted to say how powerful it is when we take accountability and we take action, right? Is really, and as I mentioned at the start of the podcast, is really a great period of transformation. So sometimes when I have friends going through a breakup, I say congratulations, because you are going through one of the best phases of your life. And
Definitely.
yeah, and discomfort, change, challenges, pain completely transform us in
Yeah.
beautiful ways. Yeah.
And
So
some of my best learnings or best times have come out of breakups. And that's not me sugarcoating it and saying they're not some of the hardest, most painful times, because they are. But on the other
100%.
side of that pain and heartbreak and all those emotions and feelings are some incredible times to come, where you learn so much about yourself. And
Yeah.
because you are in something that's so fresh, and someone that you've relied on and has been there is no longer there, so you have to just look inwards. You have to focus on yourself, and that isn't a really empowering thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree. And so for me, I have a very similar story as well. And um so it was my last long-term relationship, that it was, very painful in the way how our dynamics were, bringing not the best on each other. So I became this, person that was very jealous, that person that was not having boundaries, that person that will let things that are in my past or now I will not accept from a partner. just because I was coming from this unhealed, situation in my life, from a previous breakup that I didn't really heal. It was a very painful breakup. So I was already coming, with the wounds of my childhood, my father wound, and that relationship. So that was that relationship, that the recent one was one of my most toxic relationships, in the way that, it was very up and down. It was a push and pull dynamic. It just didn't really bring the best in us. So when I went through that breakup, I went through everything at the same time. COVID hit, and I was going through one of the most stressful times in my career, with a completely new role in a completely new industry, without no experience, and first time living by myself. In the past, I was trying to cope with that pain, and not wanting to see it, by keeping myself always busy.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something I didn't see back then. But I worked through with my first ever client, and she was the one who brought up that pattern of, well, you don't want to face your pain, that's why you keep yourself busy. What happens when you stop and you sit with yourself? And then I was like, wow, yeah, I haven't even done it, because my natural mechanism was running away from it. So I was even resistant being by myself. Like, even if I didn't have social things, which usually I will have so many back then, I will be working. I always, and I'm an overachiever because of that, because of the constant, repressing my anxiety. So long story short, that situation just brought a lot of, like, things to light. And that's when I realized that really blaming the other person is giving away my power, and really seeing my responsibility on the dynamic. Because if that person was really that bad, and I've never said my partners have been bad at all, by the way, but I just say that in general, if we are blaming our partner, if they are at fault on everything, then why did I stay? So those were the questions I started asking myself. Why I didn't put boundaries, why I didn't just leave the relationship as soon as I saw it was not a healthy dynamic. So that, for me, for example, was my starting point. And it's been just like an ongoing transformation that I don't regret at all. And I don't regret any of the relationships I've been, because they made me a better person as well. And they probably also, took me towards coaching, which is probably also your experience, right?
Yeah, definitely. So I definitely think it's one of the things that led me into coaching. But I think the main thing for me that led me to coaching was wanting to like serve and empower people. And I really want people to be living lives where they feel like they're winning.
Yes.
And that's what led me first to coaching. But yeah, definitely all the breakups and my patterns and unhealed trauma have all played a big part. So there's so many different levels and so many
So
different things that have
yeah.
really informed my coaching.
Yeah. And something you did mention, but I just wanted to also, like, touch on that, because I think is one of the key parts here, is we attract partners according to our own healing journey, where we are at in our healing journey, and the relationship with ourselves. So in my coaching, I also focus on emotional healing, empowering ourselves, being our most authentic and loving self. So then that relationship that we have with ourselves, a deep emotional connection, a deep understanding of who we are, will also be reflected into the partner that we will attract. So yeah, as you said, so many different layers. So another part that we wanted to touch on this was how to live our best single life. So I will give two points there, and then I will hand over to you to also share what you think. So for me is many points, or many things that we can do, but I'm gonna focus on maybe the two most impactful for me in my own journey. The first one was focusing on my hobbies, my passions, the things that will bring me joy, because whenever I'm focusing more on that, I'm living from a place of connected to that mission, that purpose that I came here to do. And I actually think that's my own personal opinion, that that's the real definition of happiness, fulfillment, and love, when we are connected in a beautiful way to who we are, being compassionate about all those aspects about ourselves, the things that we know that we need to work on. And if we make mistakes, if we react sometimes, if we hurt people, we are humans. We are not trying to be perfect, we are trying to be better. So it's giving myself compassion, taking accountability for those situations where I've hurt people, and taking action. So it's a few things that I've mentioned there. So it's, focusing on those things that bring us joy, passion, having fun, enjoying life, and then also being so compassionate, loving, and accepting to myself. So those are one of the, or two of the key ones for me. What about you, Kylie?
Definitely. So I think when you've initially just had a breakup, the thing I always tell clients and people is that when you first have a breakup, you do want to keep yourself busy. And that's for a few reasons. So you don't want to have spare time to be dwelling on the relationship, overthinking it, and then that will lead you to want to message your ex, keep in contact with them,
Yeah.
try and work things out. So actually, when you first break up, you want to keep yourself busy. You want to go out, you want to see your friends, you want to spend time doing things like you said that bring you joy, your hobbies, connecting back with them. And definitely for like the first few weeks, the first month after a breakup, keep yourself completely busy. And then after that is when you want to slow life down again so you can connect back to yourself. Because if you try and do that initially after a breakup, it's not going to be productive. It's not going to be helpful, because you're going to end up either self-hating or putting yourself down because of the breakup. So you want to bring all that joy and injection of joy into your life first before you then reflect on the relationship and then move forward to living your best single life. So tips for living your best single life from me would be, I totally agree with the hobbies. Like that is such an exciting thing that with this extra time of not having to see your ex-partner or the person that you were seeing, what can you do? Like what new thing have you wanted to learn? What new thing have you like wanted to join or start? And do that, and just take the action to do that and see how that goes. And then another thing is really being able to enjoy your own company without distractions. So
Yeah.
that's not just sitting there with yourself with the TV on, with a podcast on, or distracting yourself in other ways. It's being able to sit with yourself and enjoy your own company and who you are.
Yeah.
And when you can do that, and that's going to take a few months after a breakup, when you can really do that and feel content, is when you know you're going to live your best single life.
Yeah.
Because it's so easy in singleness to distract yourself. And like, I know I've just said distract yourself at the beginning, but that's when you're healing and there's a lot of pain going on. But then if you're continually distracting yourself, then you're never going to heal, because like you said, it's so easy to then overwork or bury yourself in something else and constantly feel like I need to be doing, but you're not a human doing, you're a human being.
Yeah.
And the joy of singleness comes when you can find that joy and connection in yourself and be like, I really enjoy spending time on my own. And I can, from years of trying to be busy and run away from problems, I can now sit on my own and enjoy who I am and the person I've become. And I honestly have the best times with myself.
Yeah, I think like learning to be our best friends is so beautiful. It's probably also part of that beautiful transformation to
Mm-hmm.
connecting more with ourselves. And I think I totally agree with balancing that phase, because what happens usually is, as I mentioned at the start, breakups will bring up a lot of these really painful emotions. And it's also even similar to when someone we love dies, because we need to grieve that person not being suddenly, you know, part of our lives. So it's actually also brings up a lot of grief. And so what happens is that usually our coping mechanism is, when we experience this pain, we automatically relate that to, I need to go back to this person because I'm feeling this pain. So we are projecting those emotions into the situation and the person, thinking, I feel this way, so therefore I need to go back. When it's a natural process, and I usually say this in my content, in my podcast, in general, a lot. I say, you know, all these triggers and emotions are not to be analyzed. We cannot think out our way out of emotions. We need to feel the emotions. And emotions are just energy and waves that are stuck in our body. So what we need to do is, as you mentioned, in, you know, little by little, starting to let ourselves feel the pain. So it's not going to the extreme of feeling the pain all at once, and at one single time, because your nervous system might not be able to cope. It will be too much to deal with. So you can even go through this dissociation here, or you don't want to also go to the other extreme, or keeping yourself busy, because you are just gonna also repeat the patterns, and the pain will keep coming up. So it's learning to balance and learning to see the emotions that are coming up just as emotions, instead of trying to assign a story about those emotions. Either
Yeah.
I need to go back to this person, or this person, now I love them because I'm feeling all this pain. I think it's just a normal process.
Yeah, it's so true. And normally, after a breakup, the two things that you feel most strongly is the sadness and pain of the breakup. And also, the other thing is the loneliness, because a person has then left your life that has played a huge part in your life. And like you said, that is then a grieving process, because you have to then move on knowing that that person isn't going to play the same role that they have been playing in your life. And
Yes.
that's a huge thing to get your head around. Like even small things like missing like good morning messages, or
Yeah.
being able to check in with someone throughout the day, that is your person, but they're no longer there to do those things for. So you have to then unravel that and be like, okay, like this is going to be a hard process, but
Yeah.
ultimately I'm going to go through the pain, I'm going to feel the emotions, because that person and that relationship has ended because it wasn't right and it wasn't going to serve either of us.
Yeah.
So in order to meet someone that then is going to serve you and is going to be right for you, you have to go through all those motions and unravel all that pain to then meet the person that is gonna add to your life and is gonna bring you more joy than you already have.
Yeah.
And it
Yeah.
and it should never be they're gonna bring you joy, because you should already have that joy.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think another point you also mentioned that is very, very common in breakups, right? Is this feeling of loneliness. And two things I
Mm,
want to mention about the feeling of loneliness. First is a human emotion. So every single human being experiences and feels loneliness regardless of their condition, if they are in a relationship or single. Of course, when we are not in a relationship, we tend to feel it more. And that's my second point. Not because you are not in a relationship, but because there's a lack of connection with yourself.
mm-hmm.
So whenever you are experiencing this lonely emotion, there are two things that you can do there. The first one is just sit with that emotion and just accept it, and even say, I'm feeling lonely, and that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
Don't assign any label, any story. You're feeling lonely. Everyone in their life feels lonely, again, regardless of their circumstances. So it's just
Mm-hmm.
accepting and normalizing feeling lonely without like shaming yourself for anything.
Yeah.
And the second one is start to do things that will connect to yourself more. So, for example, the ones that I really love are reading. Reading really helps me connect with myself.
Mm-hmm.
Journaling,
Yeah.
meditation and body movement. It can be, yoga, it can be deep or conscious breathing. So whenever I'm doing those things, I really feel a deep sense of connection. And then the last thing about the feeling of loneliness is, if you're experiencing a feeling of loneliness and then you are feeling it or meeting it by being with other people, is gonna be a temporary relief. Because as long as within yourself you feel that emotion is coming from you, so it needs to be met by yourself. So
I agree.
when you start connecting in deeper ways with yourself, is when you will feel a deeper sense of connection.
Definitely. And it's also the fact that humans aren't created to be living life on their own. And that doesn't mean, that's
100%.
not me saying that everyone has to be in a relationship, but life is not meant to be done alone. And
Yeah.
yes, like you say, you can meet a lot of your loneliness needs by yourself, but ultimately, we all have a longing to be with other people. So if that loneliness is being triggered in you, yes, sit with it and explore how you can overcome that yourself, but then also look at the connections around you, look at the friends that you have, look at the community that you're in. Are they serving you? Are you able to feel like you are connecting with them every day? Do you feel like you've got people around you? Because another thing is that people feel lonely and think that that must mean they need a relationship, but it might mean that the connections that are around them are not serving them enough. In terms of, they could be people that you could have a lot of friends around you, but are they friends that you are able to be yourself? Are you able to share things with them? Are you able to be honest and open with them? Or are they just people that are in your life taking space, but not really helping you to feel connected? And that's a really big thing. And it's also important to remember that, like you said, every human experiences loneliness to like different extents. And there's also people in long-term relationships that are feeling even lonelier than people that are single.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
freeing to know that loneliness doesn't equal I need to be in a relationship to help me to not feel lonely, because that's actually incorrect.
Exactly. That emotion has nothing to do with whether you're in a relationship or not. It's just a human emotion that is most of the time just a sign that there's a disconnection with the self.
Mm.
Yeah. So I think just to close and just summarize like key also points, I sometimes like to do the key takeaways. So I'm gonna mention my two key takeaways. The first one is, we mentioned during the podcast with Kylie that we often attract that partner according to our own journey and where we are at in our healing. And that's powerful, because that means that you can change your relationship patterns. You can have and you deserve a healthy, happy, committed, loving relationship. And you will start having that committed, loving, stable, and healthy relationship when you have that relationship with yourself. So start being that healthy person with yourself. Look
Mm-hmm.
at what are your unhealthy coping mechanisms. How are you trying to avoid your emotions? How are you trying to avoid yourself? On in what ways you might be abandoning yourself, and start shifting that. The second one, committing to yourself. Commit to your passions, commit to your hobbies, commit to what makes you happy. If you don't have, just even do the things that you like or enjoy doing when you were a kid, and then it will come. The third one is so I said commitment, healthy, the security. So start being there for yourself. How will you define a person who is secure? Probably a person who supports you when you're going through challenges, a person who listens to your emotions, holds a space for you, validates the way you feel, accepts you for who you are. Then start being that person for yourself, and then just loving and compassionate to yourself. So that's probably my key takeaway, with the other points I also mentioned before. What will be your or yours takeaways, Kaylee?
So my first one would be is learning how to have fun with yourself and knowing what joy and fun is when you're just by yourself. I'm someone that I love being called funny because it's something that I really enjoy, making people laugh. And I make myself laugh so much. So
I
I
love.
find myself hilarious, and I can, yeah, that's how I bring myself joy, is by
Yeah.
doing things that are funny, saying things that are funny. And I will put my hands up and say that I laugh at myself. I laugh at myself. I don't take myself too seriously. And it brings me more joy in life because
Yeah.
I am quite silly and goofy.
Yeah.
And I'll do things that I'm like, oh, but I can laugh it off and be like, okay, we can move on. So yeah, find that joy in yourself. Find what do you find funny? Do more of that. What brings you joy? Do more of that. And the other takeaway is really sitting with yourself and knowing what your triggers are, what your trauma is. And if you haven't healed your trauma, you haven't delved into it or explored it from childhood, past relationships, or other things that may have happened in life, I'd really urge people to do that, because the effects of having explored that can be huge on your life.
Yeah.
So don't run away and don't hide away from your traumas. Really, really explore them and really be at peace with the things that have happened in your past after you have explored them through coaching, therapy, counseling, whatever is your method that will work for you. Do it.
Yeah, and also because hurt people and heal
Yeah,
people heal people. So we want to be
definitely.
the ones who are coming into relationship healed or healing.
Mm,
So then we can also help and support. It's more support because it's not our responsibility, but we can support our partners in their journey to heal each other. And that's
yeah, definitely.
their relationship will blossom and be more connected because we are
Hmm.
focusing on growing and making ourselves and the other one better as well.
Yeah, and also, like you said, the hurt people. But ultimately, when you're hurt and you're not healed, the person you're going to hurt the most is yourself, because you're just adding to that and adding to that, and you're in this pattern
Yeah.
where you just keep putting yourself in situations that are adding to your pain and trauma and hurt. So the person you ultimately hurt is yourself.
Yeah, and if people like are listening to us and are asking where do I start, I will say start with connecting deeply with yourself. Start
Hmm.
with really looking at in which ways every single day you can start little by little on being more loving to yourself, on attending to your emotions, of letting yourself make mistakes, of being that person that and that partner that you want to be, become that person for yourself.
Mm, definitely.
Beautiful. So thank you so much, Kylie, again for being here with us. It's been such a pleasure and lovely to chat with you. So just if people would like to contact you, where can they reach out?
So I'm on Instagram, and my handle is at kailylovecoaching. And I'd love to connect with people and chat more in the DMs. So please feel free to DM me, and I'd be happy to talk.
Awesome. And I will put your details on the description of the podcast. So thank you so much again. And then just a reminder to anyone who is listening to us, my embodied transformation program is coming soon. So I'm very excited. If you would like to hear more details, please DM me. Is there any programs that you are currently running, Kylie, that people can reach out again?
Yes, so I've currently got a program called Frustrated, and it's 3 months one-to-one working with me. And it's all about taking all the frustrations out of dating. So we do work through your past relationship trauma, and it's helping you to move forward and make dating work for you so that you can meet the love of your life quicker and not have all these complicated situations going on. Because I my ethos is that dating doesn't have to be as complicated and messy as it sometimes is in the modern world. It is easy and simple, and I'm here to help you make it very easy and simple.
Amazing. I love the title of the program as well.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank
Well,
you so
thank
much,
you.
Alejandra.
Thank you, Kylie. And I will see you all soon in another episode of Awaken Woman podcast.